This is so crazy. Welcome back to the channel. Today's a little bit of a different setup. We're gonna make some sourdough. I've kind of dabbled in the hobby of making sourdough at the end of last year, beginning of this year. Do not have a certificate of sourdough expertise over here. It's more along the lines of I watch and then implement. So, welcome to the amateur sourdough making. So starting off, let's talk about the starter. So this starter is actually Dolly Parton. Give some respect to the name.
Thank you.
This is from the Sourdough Project. They are a local sourdough bakery that specializes in sourdough goods. We actually did a video on them. We picked this up at our local farmer's market at the end of last year, and she's been thriving ever since. Taking care of a starter is like taking care of a toddler. Okay? They need to eat every day, and if you don't feed it and let her just be, she gets real upset and real angry. Slew of problems, okay? I can relate to that, Miss Joey. The importance of starter is this is what's gonna help you get your dough to rise. If you don't have this, your dough ain't gonna rise and it's not gonna be sourdough. You're gonna be using 100 grams of starter, bread flour. Oh, well that's great. Just done spilt my bread flour. We use the King Arthur's unbleached bread flour. This is what I've had the best success with, and I'm just gonna stick with it. Don't change something if it's going good. You're gonna need 500 grams of bread flour. This is controversial. I've had a lot of people tell me to do it, and a lot of people tell me not to do it. I personally just do it anyways. You're gonna need salt. And for this recipe, we're gonna be using 12 grams of salt, 350 grams of water. Oh my God, look at my face in it. Other tools you're gonna need is a scale. We use a coffee scale because it works in grams. Bread spoon, 2 decently sized towels or rags, and finally the bowls themselves. Look at that. She has risen. Look at the bubbles. That's how you know it's good. Ooh, she breathing. You good girl. We're gonna start with the starter. Get in there. Next we're gonna add in the water. You're basically gonna mix it until it's like a frothy, milky liquid, very similar to cereal milk. That's what it looks like. We're gonna add in the salt and the flour. You're gonna wanna mix it until all the flour is hydrated. Once it's fully mixed, it's gonna look really rough. That's what it's supposed to look like. This will be an arm workout, so if you want to skip the gym for the day, highly recommend make some sourdough. This is what your dough will look like when you're done. You're gonna cover your loaf with a damp towel and set it to the side for an hour. Do not put it on your countertop, okay? And here's why. I found that when I left it on the island because it was cold, it did not proof the way it needed to proof. If you have another towel or a butcher block board, put it on that. Trust me. Okay, it's been an hour that they've been sitting, so now we're gonna work on our folds. So we will be doing 4 sets of folds in 30-minute intervals, which will then equate to at least 2 hours of folding. The first 2 sets of folds we're gonna do are our stretch and folds, and the last 2 sets of folds that we're gonna do are our coil folds. By making sure that your hands are wet, it's gonna prevent it from sticking to your fingers. So what we're gonna do for our stretch and folds is we're going to go to the north half of the dough, just kind of gently peel it off the bowl, and you're going to stretch it out. Don't tear it completely off. You want it to be one fluid motion, and then fold. Then we're going to turn our bowl and do the same method. Stretch and fold. Turn again. Stretch and fold. And finally, stretch and fold. So this is the first round of folds. You're then gonna cover it back up with your damp towel and set it to the side for 30 minutes. Round 1 of folds are done, and now we're gonna do round 2. Stretch and fold. When you're doing your folds, you're gonna start to see that that rough dough that you started out with is becoming a nice, smooth little blob. You're forming your loaf right now. It's a very crucial part. She's nice and soft and bouncy. Cover up and set aside for 30 minutes. Round 2 is done. Now we're on to round 3, which we are now switching our type of folds to a coil fold. You will take your hands and go in directly the middle of the dough and lift up until it is unsuctioned from the bowl. Essentially like rolling it into a ball, one side at a time. So now we're gonna turn it, lift it up to unsuction, fold and drop, lift it up, unsuction, fold and drop. It's essentially like 2 to 3 times on each side, but you'll notice as you start going around the bowl, it's gonna get tighter and tighter, like that. This is where you can see the difference. So this is the loaf that we have not done our coil folds yet, and this is the loaf that we have. That's the end of round 3. We're gonna let it rest for another 30 minutes. Okay, we're on our last round of folds.
Thank God.
We're gonna do one more round of coil folds. So same thing of what you did last round. Go in the middle, lift it up, and fold over. It's beautiful. Now we're gonna cover both of them up, and we're gonna be done for about 6 to 8 hours. This is going to be your proofing time. It will vary depending on the temperature of your house or where you actually place them to proof. Some people do it in the oven. I do not do that just because I've seen a lot of things in sourdough groups where people have accidentally turned the ovens on. It just ruins the whole thing for everybody. Me personally, I will just leave it on this butcher block for about 6 to 8 hours. We usually keep the house around 72 degrees, so it's mainly that 8-hour mark that they're fully proofed. We're gonna cover it up again with a damp towel and put a timer on our phone. We got our timers going. I'll see you guys in a couple hours. Okay guys, this is day 2. It is currently 7 a.m. in the morning. We did not go to bed last night until around 5:30, and I'm not a morning person, so bear with me. I'm gonna show you guys what it currently looks like. It has doubled overnight, and we've got some beautiful bubbles forming. We're gonna plop these bad boys out, so I'm gonna turn you guys around. Welcome to the other side of the kitchen. I'm just gonna take some of the white rice flour and do a light dusting. I'm also going to be using this bad boy. We're going to gently start stretching it. Now that we have the dough evenly distributed out into a rectangle, our bread cutter, start at the north side, really grab a good handful of it and fold it till it's in the center. Repeat in the same thing with the bottom pieces, and then you're going to take your 2 wings and go in the middle and then the other one right over top. And now what you're gonna do is you're gonna do a candy cane hook motion to roll it into the loaf shape. You're gonna take the palm of your hand and push the dough forward, wrap it around, and roll under. Push the dough forward, wrap it around like a candy cane, and roll under. And you want to repeat this until your dough is a perfect round loaf. You don't want to do it too much to where the dough starts breaking. Feel for that tension, and you'll have a delicious little sourdough ball. This one's so cute. Re-wet those towels that we use to cover our bowls and cover these 2 loaves for about 30 minutes. It's been about 30 minutes, and we're going to re-stretch out our dough and re-roll it and then put it in our little, you know what I'm saying. Listen, I don't have all the right terminology, and I probably am not the best teacher when it comes to this, but that's what you get when you watch an amateur. So we're just gonna go with it. And essentially it's the same method. Goes into the center, the bottom piece goes over top of that. What's gonna be different this time is when you take one side of your wing, you're gonna put it in the center. This other side, I'm gonna pull it out, stretch it a little bit, and go all the way over it to where it completely encases. You're gonna re-roll it again, and there we have it. I'm gonna flour these 2 with a decent amount of rice flour, like that. Take our loaves and flip them upside down. Gently lay it in there. We're gonna do the pinch and twist method to just seal the bottom of it. Pinch and place in the center. Sprinkle the top with a little bit of rice flour, and there you have it. Now you have options on how you wanna cover it. The best method is a plastic shower cap where it's not affecting the dough itself and it's keeping it protected at the same time. Plus, they're really cheap. These bad boys are gonna go in the fridge, which means we will be able to bake it in about 10 hours from now. It's baking day. We are baking the sourdough today. We are going to preheat our oven at 450 degrees with this bad boy inside of it, preheating along the way. If you preheat your oven without this in it, it's not gonna bake as effectively and as evenly as it would if you did preheat it within. Our oven's been preheating for over an hour now. Get our loaf out and do some scoring. This is what it looks like. Look at the bubble. You're gonna want a tool like this to score This is gonna help do some deep incisions to get some nice air pockets in there. I also like to use a silicone mat instead of parchment paper just because it'll allow the loaf to come off the pan easier and not get stuck to the bottom. I'm gonna use this and completely cover the top of my bread bowl and do a nice flip, and she done popped out over the silicone mat. We love that. Flour all, the oven fan couldn't have come on at a worser time. I'm just gonna spread the white rice flour all around it to make sure that no ends get burnt. One big incision. You really wanna go deep. I like to do it twice just to make sure. On the other side, you can do some decorative stuff. I just like to do a couple lines, basic. I'm here for the bread, just to eat it, not necessarily look at. So we're gonna take the lid off in the center. I also have a few pieces of ice that we're gonna add in, and this is just going to help create a nice steam. And cover. Now we're gonna put it back in the oven with the lid on. Our oven does not maintain heat very well, so even though I preheated it to 450 degrees, it's actually currently at like a 410, 420. I'm going to be baking mine with the lid on for about 30 minutes. If your oven is able to maintain heat at 450, you should only have to do it for about 20. You're gonna bake it with the lid on. When that time is up, you'll take the lid off and then bake it for an additional 20 minutes or until it's a nice golden brown. So we're gonna keep it in here for another 20 minutes. Look at how golden and crispy it is. It's not as floofy as I'd like it to be, but this is what you get when you get an amateur baker. Inconsistency. You probably wanna wait 3 to 4 hours-ish before cutting. Look at that, ASMR. Okay, it's actually the next day, and I let these bad boys cool overnight just to really make sure that I didn't cut it too early. This is always the true test to see how the crumb is. The moment of truth. Ooh! This is our crumb. Rate my crumb. Be nice. I think it might be a little overproofed, but regardless, it's gonna taste delicious. It's not gonna be perfect every time, but the end result and the taste is what matters. In my opinion, there are some other incredible sourdough bakers that are on this platform that probably can give you a lot more useful tips than I can, but we're all for the experience and we're all for trying. I'm gonna go toast a piece up so we can get that good crunch. This is what we all wait for. Listen. Cheers. Yep, let me tell you, this will be the best sourdough you ever eat in your life, and you will not want to buy any others for the grocery store. It just takes about 72 hours and a lot of patience. Something about bread and butter just works every time. I hope you guys enjoyed this sourdough journey that we took today. Make sure you guys like and subscribe and comment below what would you put on your piece of sourdough. Maybe we'll do another one, and I can show you guys how I make my chocolate sourdough loaf, or maybe a pickle one with some pickle dip. Anywho, we'll see you guys next Sunday. Bye-bye, goodbye. This very much feels like a Missy Elliott situation right now. Okay, bye.